They tossed her at my feet like a sack of grain. Wasn't no ceremony to it. Just a grunt from Alboon, a man who smelled like sour beer and sun-baked leather. And then, thud, dust clouded around the shape of her, thin and curled in on itself. One shoe on, the other gone. She's yours now, preacher, Lyle said, spitting to the side. Call a gift. Or a joke. The men behind him laughed, low and mean. Drifters, mostly. Cattle hands with too much whiskey in their blood and not enough soul to feel ashamed. The kind of men who'd chew a body up just to see if she screamed. I didn't move. Didn't speak. Just looked down at her. She was breathing barely. Ribs stuck out through the fabric of her torn dress. More thread than cloth. A gash above her brow leaked slow, dark blood. Her wrists were wrapped in rope burns. Swollen. Purpled. What's her name? I asked. Lyle shrugged. Didn't ask. Didn't matter. One of the men, Jessup, maybe, or Clay, snorted. We called her Runt. Wouldn't speak no way. Ain't sure she can. I looked at their boots. Dust-caked, worn to the heel. Same as their soles. You beat her. Just roughing her up. She's tougher in she looks. Ain't dead, is she? Their laughter rose again, barking like coyotes. I crouched beside her slow. Gentle. She flinched when I touched her shoulder. Not from pain, though there was plenty of that, but from memory. You can walk. I asked her, quiet. Her lips parted. No sound came out. Lyle scoffed. Look at you. Preacher Patch, savior of strays. Ain't that what they call you up north? That name felt like a curse now. I'd come to Dry Willow to outrun it. But God has a cruel way of dragging purpose behind you like a chain. Get off my land, I said, still crouched. Lyle grinned, wide and yellow. That a threat? It's a promise. Something in my voice must have hit right. Or maybe they were bored. Either way, they left, dust rising behind their horses like smoke off hell's own fire. She didn't move even after they were gone. Just lay there like her bones, didn't believe in standing anymore. I gathered her up slow. She was light, too light, like the desert wind might snatch her out of my arms. Inside the chapel, it was cooler. The stone walls held shade, and the wooden floor creaked with each step I took toward the pew. I laid her down on the bench closest to the altar, not out of reverence, just because it caught the breeze best. She didn't thank me, didn't look at me, just curled up tighter. There was a time I'd have prayed over her, asked the Lord to mend what was broken, but too many graves out back had dulled my hope. So I did what I knew, fetched a basin of water, stripped my shirt for bandages, and cleaned the blood from her face. She winced, but didn't cry out. Not once. What's your name? I tried again. Her eyes flicked toward mine, gray, stormy, ringed with old fear. But still she said nothing. You're safe here. Ain't nobody gonna touch you now. I got a breath out of her. Not quite a sigh. Not quite trust. But it was something. I turned away to give her space. Stoked the fire low, boiled a tin of broth, and left it by her side. Didn't push it. I didn't ask questions that night. Just let the silence do what it could. Slept in the chair across from her, with one eye open and the rifle across my knees. In the darkness, the wind spoke through the chapel rafters, but not louder than the voice in my head, whispering what kind of men would do that to a girl and walk away laughing. Her name would come later, but the choice had already been made. They handed me a shattered girl for sport, and damn me if I wouldn't give everything I had to make her whole again. The next morning, she was gone. I near tore the place apart, thinking she'd run. But the chapel door still hung on its hinge, untouched. No footprints in the dust outside. No rustle of skirts down the slope behind the graveyard. Then I heard the scraping. She was on her knees by the altar, trying to sweep the floor with a broken branch she must have found out back. Her hands were raw, shoulders trembling from the effort. But she kept at it, dragging grit and sand into slow little piles like penance. You don't need to do that, I said gently. She froze, head bowed like a sinner caught mid-confession. I walked to her, slow and careful. She stiffened but didn't flinch. Not this time. You ain't got to earn your place here, I said. You already got it. Still no words. But her hand loosened on the branch, and her breathing eased. That day passed quiet. I chopped wood, fed the hens behind the chapel, fixed a leak in the roof. She watched me, always from a distance, always silent. like a half-wild creature waiting to see if kindness had teeth. By sundown, she'd moved from the pew to the back room where the cot stood. She didn't ask, didn't need to. It was the first choice she'd made, and I let it be hers. The days passed like that. Careful, measured. I learned she liked warm milk with a bit of honey, that she slept better when the chapel bell was covered, muting its creak in the wind, that she hated the color red, flinched when my rag had too much blood from a rabbit I'd skinned. I never asked what they'd done to her, but I saw in how she flinched when boots hit the porch, in how her eyes tracked every man who passed on the ridge trail, even if they were half a mile off. She was learning how to breathe again. It took a week before she spoke. I was mending the gate out front, cursing under my breath at a warped hinge, when I heard her voice, raspy and small, from behind me. Clara. I turned. She stood with her arms tucked around her middle, dress patched with scraps I'd sewn the night before. What? My name, she said. It's Clara. I swallowed, throat dry from dust and surprise. Clara, I repeated. That's a good name. She nodded once, then sat on the chapel steps and said nothing else. But it was a beginning. That night, I made cornbread and stew. Set 2 places instead of 1. We ate in silence, but it was a warmer kind of quiet. Later, she handed me the tin plate and said, "Thank you." 2 words, and they near broke me. The weeks rolled by like slow thunder. She started humming when she swept. Painted the old altar rail white with leftover milk paint. I gave her the choice of staying or moving on, but she never answered. Just kept showing up each morning like she belonged. I reckon maybe she did. Then came the rider. Dust plumed up the trail long before I saw the shape. Big man, broad-shouldered, with a hat pulled low and a rifle slung across his back. Clara saw him first, dropped the bucket she was carrying, and ran straight into the chapel without a word. I stepped off the porch and waited. He didn't dismount, just reined in his horse and spat. "You Patch?" he asked. "I am." He looked me over like measuring a man's worth by his calluses. "Name's Rufus Harlan. Heard tell you been taking in strays." I didn't blink. "You hear about the girl?" He smiled. Crooked. Slow. Could be. My fingers itched for the rifle by the door, but I didn't move. "She's under my roof now," I said. "That makes her mine to protect." He laughed, low and cruel. "That ain't how the world works, preacher. She's property. Was bought fair by Boone and his boys. And stolen by you. She ain't property." His smile vanished. "Don't matter what you believe. The men who want her back ain't the forgiving kind." I stepped forward, then let him come, and tell him I'm the kind that doesn't forget, either. Rufus stared at me a long while, then pulled the reins, turned his horse, and rode off without another word. Inside, Clara was curled behind the altar, breathing fast. I knelt beside her. "He's not coming back tonight," I said. She didn't look at me. "Whatever he was before," I said, "he ain't your future." Finally, her hand reached for mine. Barely a touch, but enough. They'd come looking. I knew that now. But so help me, they'd find a wall instead of door. We boarded up the windows that week. Reinforced the door with iron hinges and wedge planks behind it like the old fortifications I'd seen out east. Clara didn't ask why. I think she already knew. Rufus Harlan wasn't the type to give up after a single ride. And Boone and his boys weren't men who left a grudge unpaid. Clara worked beside me, sleeves rolled up, hammer too big for her hand. She barely spoke, but her silence wasn't hollow anymore. It was steady, deliberate, a kind of quiet strength she was carving out for herself. On the 3rd day, I caught her standing out by the graves. She wasn't crying, just staring at the weather-worn markers like they held some secret she needed. "Were they yours?" she asked. I nodded. "Some are passers-by. Some were mine. Folks I tried to save." She glanced sideways. "Did you bury someone you loved?" I hesitated. "My wife. And my boy." The wind picked up, pulling her hair across her cheek. She didn't speak again, but she stayed beside me until the sun slipped behind the ridge. That night, I found her on my workbench with the old pistol I kept for snakes and worse. She wasn't touching it, just looking. "You ever fired one?" I asked. She shook her head. "But I want to learn." I studied her for a long moment. Her hands weren't trembling anymore. Her shoulders sat a little straighter. "You sure?" "Yes." So we began. Each morning, before the sun burned high, I taught her how to shoot. how to load slow and steady, how to brace her feet, how not to blink. Her hands were small, but her aim got truer with every shot. "You're a fast learner," I said one morning after she clipped a tin can clean off the fence post. She shrugged. "I had to learn how to survive. Now I want to learn how to fight." The look in her eyes wasn't vengeance. It was something colder, more focused, and I understood, because I'd been the same once. After the fever took my boy and the raiders left my wife with a bullet in her back, Clara wasn't just trying to protect herself. She was building a weapon from the ruins. By the end of that week, I knew they were close. The kind of men Boone ran with didn't leave a trail. They cut through land like wildfire, sudden and cruel. I started sleeping less, set traps near the creek, wrote a letter to a marshal I used to ride with, just in case. On the 7th night, the dog barked. It was an old mutt, half-deaf and slower than age, but he never barked unless there was reason. Clara met my eyes from across the chapel. We didn't speak. We didn't need to. I handed her the smaller rifle, the one she could handle easy. She loaded it without looking down. They came through the trees, 4 of them, lanterns swinging, voices low. While Boone out front, just like I expected. Jessup behind him, grinning wide like a drunk at a hanging. I stepped out into the open, rifle resting on my shoulder. "You came to church," I said. "That means you're ready to repent." Lyle chuckled. "I came for what's mine. No more sermon. Preacher, hand her over. She's not yours. Never was. She's property. She's a person. And she's under my protection." Lyle tilted his head. "You got no idea what she's worth, do you? She ain't for sale." He spat. "You gonna shoot me over a used-up little?" I didn't let him finish. The first shot came from behind me. Clara's. It split the dark like judgment, cracked through the trees, and dropped Jessup to the ground before he could reach for his gun. I moved fast after that. 2 clean shots, one into the gut of the second man, the other catching the third in the thigh. Lyle ran. He always was a coward under the swagger. I chased him to the ridge, rifle ready. Found him crawling like a wounded dog, muttering about money, about debts and secrets, and what she really is. He turned with a knife, but I kicked it from his hand. "She's not a thing," I said. "She's a girl, and you don't get to break people just because you think you can." He looked up at me, blood on his lips. "You don't know who she really is. Don't need to." He lunged. One shot ended it. When I got back to the chapel, Clara was still standing, rifle lowered, hands steady. She didn't cry. I took the weapon from her, slowly. "Sit down. You all right?" She nodded. "I don't feel proud. You don't have to. Just safe." We buried them behind the ridge. Said no words. Let the dirt speak for itself. Back in the chapel, she sat by the fire, eyes glowing faint in the ember light. "They'll come again," she said. "Others. If I'm worth something." I sat beside her, then let them come. And for the first time, she reached for my hand without hesitation. Spring came slow that year. The snow receded from the hills like a long-held breath, and the creek behind the chapel sang again. Birds returned, wildflowers opened, and Clara walked with her chin lifted, no longer searching the tree line every 5 steps. She still slept light, still checked the locks before bed, but she smiled now, thin and quick, like she hadn't quite remembered how, but it was real. We built a fence together, a proper one this time, around the garden. She took to planting beans, tomatoes, squash. I watched her hands darken with soil and thought how far we'd come from that night the men arrived. It wasn't peace, not exactly, more like a kind of steady living, until the letter came. It arrived in a leather satchel strapped to a riderless mule. No note on who sent it, just my name, scrawled in a hand I hadn't seen in years. Clara was the one who found it. She handed it to me without a word, eyes sharp. I opened it by the fire. The seal was official. Federal. The marshal I'd written weeks back had done more than listen. Inside was a worn photograph. Clara's face, younger, cleaner, standing beside a man in a fine coat. The back read, "Clara Ada Templeton. Reported missing. Heiress to the Templeton mining estate. Last seen boarding a stagecoach near Arrow Hollow." My mouth went dry. Clara said nothing. She just stared at the fire like it had betrayed her. "You knew?" I asked. She didn't flinch. Not at first. It came back in pieces. A brother, a locked room. A voice saying I talked too much. then a stage, then nothing. The letter asked for confirmation. If she was found, she had a claim, property, land, rights to a fortune that spanned 3 counties. I looked at her then. Not at the girl they said she'd been, but the one who'd scrubbed floors with a tree branch, who'd learned to shoot, who'd guarded our chapel with grit and silence. You don't have to be her, I said. Not if you don't want. But I am, she whispered. Some part of me still is. Days passed. She said little, moved slow. Then one morning, she packed a small satchel. Took nothing but a change of clothes and the locket I'd found in her old coat. I have to go see what's left, she said. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's too much. But I have to look. I didn't stop her. Just walked her to the edge of the trail. I'll come back, she said. If you want me to. I'll be here, I said. If you want to. She left before the sun had touched the ridge. I watched her go, smaller with every step, until the pines swallowed her whole. The days after were quieter than before, but not empty. I still rang the bell every Sunday, tended the graves, mended the pew she'd claimed as hers. She wrote once from a hotel in Bisbee, said the town called her Miss Templeton now, said people bowed, said it didn't feel like anything at all. But at the end, in ink a shade darker, she wrote, I remember how the stew tasted. I remember your fence. I remember you didn't flinch when I couldn't speak. That matters more than any mine ever will. Months passed. Then, just before autumn, I heard boots on the porch. I opened the door, heart stilled in my chest. There she stood, dust on her coat, rifle slung behind her back, eyes steady. I sold it all, she said. The land, the rights, the name. Said what was owed to orphan homes, freed the workers. Took my cut and left the rest. And what now? I asked. She smiled, slow, warm, unguarded. Now, she said, I want to plant more squash. I stepped aside, and for the first time since the war, the chapel felt like home again.